Good morning, Travis.
Morning, Nestor. How you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic.
All right.
Been running around, been really busy. We had a busy last week here in the office, busy this week. I'm feeling a little bit more energy from the market.
Oh.
Yeah, I don't know if you're feeling it.
No. Tell me. What do you mean by that?
I'm just...
Before we get into branding.
Yeah, today's topic, Branding 101. But I don't know, I'm just feeling a little bit more energy, more of a, I don't want to say positive vibe. I think it's more of an energetic vibe from the agents. I'm feeling like the agents representing buyers, more of them are starting to get their offers accepted. I have a feeling that's multiple offers obviously still out there, but not to the same extent and not as crazy on the overbidding and things like that. We're starting to see a little bit more, I guess the word reasonable is relative, but you know, just feeling that, seeing some, we talked about this last week, seeing some down arrows on the MLS with price reductions and things of that nature. Part of it is those a little bit overzealous on some of the seller situations. The price in their property is just a little bit too high, and now I'm seeing price reductions. As I was looking at one this morning, 3 price reductions.
Wow.
Yeah, what does that tell you?
Tells you interest rates are over 5%.
Well, it's funny. I looked at it and I was all like, was the seller overzealous? Was the agent overzealous, or was the agent just not being forthright with the client and, hey, here's the real situation, or
I don't want to get too far off the topic of branding, but I think you're on a good point there, which is we've got one listing for every 10 agents almost in this marketplace, which is just extraordinary.
Right.
So there's been desperation in the market for plenty of time. Now it's tightening even further, which many times leads to that desperation of, tell me what to put on the listing contract, Mr. Seller. That's all I need to know.
Right.
Yeah, there's no consultation, no reasonableness. People are desperate for that business, and so they end up in a position with, at the same time, the market's changing.
Right.
So it's exasperating sellers' desires and impressions of the market versus what the reality is.
Right.
So that's why we could see a lot of that going on.
All right. So we tie this whole thing into, well, it's all about getting more listings, getting more buyers, putting your name out there, and what does your name look like when you're out in the market, and we're, branding 101.
What's the impression people get of you?
Exactly.
Right? What do you want them to, what picture do you want people to have pop into their heads when they see how you're presenting yourself?
Exactly. So it's, it's kind of a twofold thing. What picture do you want people to see when they do think of you? What's their impression? What are their thoughts? What do they associate you with? And then the second thing is are you even a thought?
Yeah.
Because it works both ways. When they're, obviously in our industry, when they're thinking about real estate, have you branded yourself well enough in the real estate world to be thought about in that environment? And then the second part of that, obviously, is, well, if they do, what do they think?
I think there's two ends to that. There's, are you being ignored because you're so vanilla and blah that you're just not enticing anyone? Or are you doing a great job of branding, but you're doing it to such a small market that you're really pigeonholing yourself, I don't want to make an example because I don't want to make it sound terrible, but I don't know, maybe you're like not only a motorcycle person, but maybe you're a Harley person.
Right.
And you like the whole lifestyle, you like the look, and so your branding is you in leather and looking rough.
Right.
That's probably extremely sticky to some people, but it could be a passover on many people who are like, nah,
correct.
I don't know.
It's funny you say that. I ride a Harley. I've gotten listings because other people ride Harleys.
Absolutely. And I don't think it's a bad thing.
Right.
I think you just need to look at how you present it and whether you're really just being too tight with it.
Right.
Or whether in a general sense you're understood to be a Harley guy, but you could still be very appealing to a stay-at-home mom.
Correct.
Or something of that.
Yeah, nature. I think your point is that Harley rider your brand, or is it part of your brand, or just one portion of your brand? So, and I like to think of it as, when we're talking about branding, what is it that you're doing to be deliberately different
Yep.
than your competition
Yes.
and everybody else so that you can stand out? And when you reverse engineer from that perspective and take a look at this whole thing of, hey, a lot of people, especially in our industry, we see a lot of, for lack of a better word, copying or thieving. You know, I see a good idea, I'm going to copy it and take it. And there's nothing wrong with that, but are you taking that and making it your own and making it part of your message, or are you just muddying the waters?
Doesn't sound very genuine.
Right. I remember once, going back to the story, I remember I had created this property brochure and I was putting it out door to door, and an agent called me up and said, hey, do you mind if I love your design and I love your copy and I love what you're doing, do you mind if I take it? And I was like, no, I don't mind, go right ahead.
I don't know, where do you do business?
Well, so valid point. So the very next week, I'm distributing my marketing piece, and they had actually not only copied it verbatim, and all they did was change their name at the bottom, but they decided they were going to put it in the exact same areas that I was putting it in. And I'm
Lord.
all,
That's brazen.
well, there's a lot of different words I can think of, but that benefited no one. You know, that just diluted the whole system. There's nothing wrong with taking from others or borrowing and you know, modifying, but when you put it in the same place or you're putting it to the same market, you kind of shot yourself in the foot.
Yeah.
So on a couple of different levels.
Well, that's another part of branding we're talking about, which is, you know, materials and things you put out, whether it be mailers, you know, really ultimately in this business, I think if you can, you know, you should have everything very similar. So
Yes.
print mail, print door, flyers, social media, email templates, all that stuff should be really well branded.
Correct.
And, you know, every time you change something on how you deliver it as far as it looks, people can mistake you for someone else.
Correct.
And you're going to lose the benefit of that constant branding. So if your first flyer has you on the top and information below, and the next one has you on the bottom with the information above, and you're switching right to left, or you're changing your picture all the time,
Right.
or you're changing fonts, you're not getting as much benefit out of it as you would if you design it in the beginning and make it a very static template, and just the information available on it
Correct.
is changing. Because that way, even if they don't pay attention to it really when they look at it, they're like, oh, there's Nestor again, boom, before they throw it in the circular file.
Right. And that's something interesting. You know, you brought up a part of branding that a lot of people probably overlook: the font. You know, so often I listen to the marketing department having conversations with the agents, and you know, when you're deciding how's your name going to appear in your email signature, and how's your name going to appear on the flyer, and how's your name going to appear here, there, and everywhere else, you know, so often I see, well, it's a different font here, and a different font here, and a different font here, and when you look at it, you think, oh, no big deal. But what a lot of us don't realize is our subconscious picks up way more than our conscious picks up. And we always forget, or we tend to forget, how much is happening in the subconscious. You know, every little piece of information we pick up in the conscious, we've got like hundreds of thousands of bits of information we're picking up in the subconscious that are affecting our decisions. And those little things make a difference. And you're right. Hey, does my social media match my print? Is it showing up the same everywhere?
You know what a great branding is for agents or otherwise? Is if you're farming an area and someone that lives in that farm goes onto social media and they're scrolling along and they stop.
Yep.
Not because they saw your name,
Because they recognize.
because they recognize the brand.
Exactly.
It's the yellow or the green or the blue or the red, how it is formatted.
Right.
And they'll stop on it because they're like, oh, I know that.
Exactly.
That's a strong brand.
And they understand that you're bringing value. And that's the other part of branding is, you know, what do people associate with you? Because, you know, we're talking about how things look. But it also applies to the written. and what you're presenting and what things that you're presenting and what value you're presenting to that consumer from that perspective.
So to go back to your conscious, unconscious fonts and everything, you're talking unconscious. I'll talk conscious. There are certain neighborhoods, boy, that better be in block letters and very easy to read.
True.
So it's very obvious what's there. You know, maybe this seems a little bit silly, but you know, if you're in an area that's been around a long time and you're dealing with people of a different generation,
right?
You know, you got your glasses, I got my glasses. You know, make it easy to read. If you put it in all frilly fonts, they're going to be like, oh Lord, and just throw stuff away, and you're going to lose the benefit of it.
Correct.
So be very careful with that. You want people to be able to read it.
I laugh because I have to have a conversation with one of the agents in our office because I can't read their phone number.
Yeah, that's a problem.
On their letterhead, on their
first
font
thing.
for
Can I find your name on there?
Right.
What's the first thing you see on this flyer? Travis. I did my job.
Exactly.
What's the first thing you see on this flyer? Oh, the price. Okay, now we need to think about this. That's not what I want them focusing on, right? So you got to be careful that way. Also, it's funny, there's this one agent in Irvine, big agent, good agent, and he rebranded himself, I don't know, it was a couple of years ago, and I looked at it and I go, wow, that's a different color. Like, I don't know, that's not a color you see every day, and I thought, I think maybe he might be making a little bit of a mistake. No, I was the one who made a mistake questioning it, because now I'm thinking about it. When I do social media and things, I know immediately when it comes from him.
Right.
When it goes by, I'm like, oh, there he is, boom. Pure value in that.
Exactly. So let's talk strategy-wise. So I'm new, I'm old, I'm whatever. I'm either trying to figure out how to rebrand myself, start, give this some conscious effort to put something together. And we've talked a little bit about it, making sure everything matches. But a couple of simple steps. I start with mine is, my first step is research my competition. And when I say research my competition, I'm researching my competition because my goal is either to look different, look better, or both. And I say that because we have to be careful. A lot of times people try to look like someone else as far as copying them, but you have to be careful with that. Are you helping them or helping yourself? So first things first is research. What's everybody got out there? That's, in our industry, there's so many dollars that are spent on all the different real estate brands that are out there to be different and to look different and not look or be like one of the other ones.
Yeah.
Because they don't want the confusion. And for us, our brand, that red over white over blue, that is part of our brand where that has become so recognizable that you can see it from a distance, and even if it's not, you associate it that it is, and you make that mistake that it is.
Yeah, I think that's good. But I think also you need to research your target audience.
Very true.
Now, it doesn't mean that things are going to be totally different, and they can't even be anywhere near one another. But in a very general sense, if I'm marketing to the Irvine community as a whole, or the Newport community as a whole, or the Huntington Beach community as a whole, those are three distinct areas.
Absolutely.
That are very different. Now, you might be able to use a particular template or format or an idea, but you're going to have to be very different in your message or how you're presenting yourself there.
Right.
These areas, this is a very general sense, but they have an identity. There's certain reasons people go to those areas, and so you got to speak to it.
Right.
If you're speaking Irvine over in Huntington Beach, you're not going to get the full bang for your effort.
Correct.
And vice versa for all three of those cities intertwined.
Absolutely. And when you look at those things and you're looking at your target audience, is your target audience changing? And are you changing with your target audience? I see a lot of agents have been in a community, and this goes back to thinking about rebranding. You've been in a community for so long, 10, 15 years, does it still make sense? Does your brand that you've kept alive for 15 years, is it up to date with what's current there? And has it changed along and evolved with the community as a whole?
Yeah. Make sure that's a long-term prospect. You don't want to do that every year.
Exactly.
But certainly you want to pay attention to it and adjust as necessary.
Exactly. So after we have our strategy, go back to my notes. So then I look at how do I establish and I build your personal brand. And, a lot of ways when I look at things, I look at some of the things not to do. And when I look at some of the things not to do, a couple of stories, and this was a situation that we had where we had an opportunity to co-brand, which is one method of creating your brand is to take a brand and co-brand with somebody else. An example, our office, you have a newer agent that comes into the industry, rely on the brand of the company first and put that to the front and co-brand yourself with that particular company. But you want to make sure that when you're doing those things that you're not co-branding yourself with something that's not aligned with who you are or what you are. I'm heavily involved with Team Kids, and we had an opportunity a few years ago where we had the ultimate prize fighter for cage fighting. I don't even know what it was, but they came to us and they said, we want you to be the beneficiary of our event, and we're going to promote you and this and that. And we're thinking, and they were talking about thousands and thousands of dollars coming to us as a benefit of this. But we had to take a step back, and we're all like, well, wait a minute, we're a kid-run foundation.
Yeah, to represent who we are.
Exactly, and being associated with cage fighting and things like that was just not a good fit. So we have to make sure that when we are branding that, whatever we're putting ourselves together and aligning ourselves with, number one, that it matches.
100% agree.
Another example.
Of what?
Anything.
Well,
Branding
I don't know
101.
yeah, I mean, I'll go back to branding and personal branding, company branding, and all that, and have the discussion about. We've been talking a lot about personal branding, but I think the company branding is also very important.
Absolutely.
You have these large companies that are known in a much bigger picture, and there's a tremendous amount of value there. One, when you're a new agent, you can lean on the company and make them out front.
Correct.
And then when you get a little more experienced, then you become the primary brand, and the company brand's behind you.
Right.
Some people almost try to wash out their company brand, which I think is a terrific mistake.
Right.
It brings all kinds of value, and probably one of the most common things I hear is, well, I'm all past clients and referrals, so I don't really need it out there for prospecting purposes. And I'm like, well, whoa. I go, what are referrals? That is the best business that we can do. We love it. It's sticky business, but they don't know you.
Correct.
They know who referred you. Now, you're going to get most of those probably, right? That's how the business works. But in the end, there are going to be people who are going to say, no, I need to dig just a little bit deeper. When they see a brand, or Remax obviously, so let's use that, and they see that behind that agent, that's tremendous comfort. Oh, I know that. I came from India. And I know that.
Right,
I came from Africa, and I know that because that brand is so universally known. The value of that you don't understand because people are seeing it and you're benefiting from it, but they don't tell you to your face, hey, you know what, I'm really glad with Remax. It gives me comfort that if anything goes wrong, I know that I've got a big name behind me.
So I like to give the example of when we go to travel. So we're driving down the street, we're on whatever road, and we're in the middle of nowhere, and it's time to pull over and eat. And there is John Doe's Diner, best meal in whatever town that's here, and right next door to it is McDonald's. We usually tend to stop by McDonald's, even though that burger or whatever might be better at that diner. Because of the brand, we know what we're getting.
Yep.
We've alleviated that uncertainty in what we're about to put in our stomach and whether we're going to be uncomfortable. I guess I'd rather be uncomfortable with eating bad junk food or fast food than uncomfortable with the possibility of Lord knows what came out of this place that's in the middle of nowhere, and because we don't know anything about it.
And that could be the best meal you ever have at Joe Blow's place. But are you willing to take that chance? More people are going to gravitate towards the brand than they are the independent.
Now, I take that
unless
one step
the independent
further.
Brands itself well.
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to jump
no,
on that. That's what we were
No, you're absolutely right, because you take that one step further, because the kids are in the back seat, and they're 3 steps ahead of you. Hey, it's got 14 million Yelp reviews, all 5 stars, fantastic, and everybody thinks this place is the greatest. because they've done a good job of branding themselves and taking a look at what their reputation is online.
Yep.
Next thing you know, we're trying someplace new. So that was mixed message in there.
It's a good message.
It is, it is. So let me ask you this. Talking about branding, do you own your domain name?
Oh, of course.
So it's one of the first things I always tell people is, do you own your first and last name? And it's a little bit more difficult now because it's become so popular. But one of the best gifts you can give if you have children when they're born, their domain name exists. You buy that now.
That's interesting.
And hold on to that. So often we think of that we need to create this brand, and we forget that it all starts with who we are.
Yeah. How about, well, Nestor, I don't want to brand myself as Travis Barron. I want to brand myself as the Condo King of Irvine. So why would I get TravisBarron.com? Seems like a waste of money.
So do you want to brand yourself as the Condo King? So do you want people to associate and think of Condo King and then think of Travis Barron, or do you want them to think of Travis Barron and then think of the Condo King?
I'm going to be marketing myself as the Condo King.
Okay.
It's my business.
Okay.
Okay, where you're supposed to go with that is you can have 15 domain names and they all go to the same place.
You can, and I was trying to think of the nice way of saying, okay, but I think we're missing the point of...
No, so, you want your name because people are going to think Condo King. Well, I know it's Travis Barron, but what was the name of his brand again? Mm-hmm. Well, you want to know that if they're going to punch in Travis Barron, they're going to get to the Condo King and vice versa. So to have those domains there and the ability,
correct,
you're just casting a wider net.
That is true. That is true. And you want that message to be across all of them that looks the same. But
you don't even have to ever put TravisBarron.com anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
But if someone goes to Google and types in Travis Barron, boom.
What pops up?
Yeah.
And everybody, tip, Google yourself and see what does pop up.
Hopefully you find it good.
Well,
but you never know.
Hopefully you find it.
Excuse me. Well, yeah, there you go.
Hopefully, number one, you find it. Ultimately, the goal is if you Google your name, if you're doing everything right, you are the majority of the first page. If you're doing it fantastic, you are all of the first page and part of the second page. But if you're Googling your name and other stuff is popping up, you're lost. If you're Googling other things that are in your brand and other things are coming up and you're not coming up, there's a good indication that things aren't cohesive in your brand.
Yeah.
So interesting. Cool. All right. That was my 2 cents on branding 101.
Yeah. I mean, consider it, be diligent about it, and
what are
consistency, consistency.
I'll finish with this, Travis. What are some of the fun ways that people can brand themselves that they might overlook? Here's a couple things just came to mind. How we dress. And it can be as simple as, hey, shorts and t-shirts all the time, jeans and t-shirt, or three-piece suit. But it could also mean, hey, they're always in that plaid jacket, or they're always wearing a hat, or they're always wearing a particular color, or they're always wearing those funky socks. All of that can go as part of your branding.
Absolutely. I was always of the mind, you know what? It's hard to be overdressed, but it's easy to be underdressed.
Very true.
And I know the times change, and you can probably move with those. But back in the day, I had a tie too. I don't wear a tie anymore, but I had a tie. But what was interesting was I always wanted that to be the first impression. But if you became a client of mine, we were working, I show up the tie the first time. Next time, you'll see me without a tie. The next time, the jacket will be gone.
Right.
And so I worked my way into being comfortable with people. And I want to meet them where they're at. So if I see people and they're always in shorts and t-shirts and like literally they're always that way, I'm probably not going to show up with a tie on. Cool. I probably won't be shorts and t-shirts, but I'll be a lot more casual.
And that goes also back to your point of who's your marketplace. So have my client in Huntington Beach, I'm showing up differently than if I have a client I don't know, here in Irvine,
Yeah.
I might show up different and what's more comfortable. I'm in Florida, definitely going to be a little bit more casual, or I'm going to feel like it's a more casual scene, more shorts and you know, button-down shirts or t-shirt, not necessarily t-shirts, but button-down shirts or polos and things like that, just a more casual look.
Yeah.
Versus, you know, I don't know, can't think of a place where I go the opposite. I don't know, Dubai. I don't know what the marketplace is there, but how I need to dress to impress there. But
Yeah.
all right. Anything else?
I think it's pretty well covered.
All right.
But, I mean, if there are more questions out there, we're always happy to have that discussion.
Absolutely.
Got a great marketing department.
We
Andrea
do.
here with us today, filming. Always happy to help out and put something together for our people, right?
Absolutely. So I'll finish with, so Travis made a good point. If you've got any questions, drop them in the comments. We'll come back and take a look at those and be happy to answer those questions, or just reach out to us. I'm sure it's written there somewhere in our brand of how to find us.
For me, all you have to do is Google Travis Barron. You'll get it.
I'm trying to think of other words that you can use. There's probably a dozen words you can Google for me. Some of them good, some of them,
Let's not go there.
Exactly. But anyway, if you have any questions or anything or any comments, please put them in the comments down there. Let us know what you think. Subscribe, like, share, and a big fat thank you.
Yes.
Till next time.
Till next time.
Take care, everybody.